He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's gotta run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Welcome back to another edition on a Saturday night. What are we, 2 hours from practice and qualifying? And I have to say that I am thrilled with Claude, ChatGPT, and my own personal bot, Hermes. With the three of them together, we were able to get all of the information dumped into the slideshow. Everything's set. The website's live with all of the updated qualifying stuff, so you can build your DK calculator lineups and save it to a CSV file and everything, all within like 2 hours. And I still had to make some small tweaks and corrections throughout. But I tell you what, it's that this AI stuff is wild, to say the least. And yes, if anyone asks, the pictures are AI generated. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch my channel. Being funny because last week somebody was like, "Oh, you used AI for your graphics." Whatever, go away. Like to see his YouTube channel. All right, either way, we are headed to Michigan this weekend for the FireKeepers Casino 400. Denny Hamlin was the race winner last year at this race. He was also last week's winner at Nashville. Can anybody stop the Toyotas at this point? The Chevys are slowly making progress, and the Fords are stagnant at this point. And that's really tough because, I mean, this is Ford's stomping grounds. This is their backyard. Ford should be absolutely winning at Michigan, especially with the high speeds that they run, the drafting, and all of those types of things. I mean, they had won, I think, 11 straight into the last 2 years, and now they're not again. We'll see. But let's go back and revisit last week's Nashville win with Denny Hamlin taking the victory. Listening to his podcast this past week, he was like, "Yeah, I didn't think I was going to win. Oh yeah, I jumped the start. I went to last on the first lap and battled back to take home the top spot." So congrats to Denny on that, and a JGR sweep of 1, 2, 3 on the podium. Pretty impressive, actually, for Nashville. But the Toyotas have absolutely been crushing it as of late. And if you were keeping track of your Nashville optimal lineups, which you can find, I did post that shortly after the race, or maybe on Monday morning, I can't remember what it was. I do post the optimal lineup into the Discord. So reminder, if you want to join the Discord, the link is down below. Make sure you go and join in, and we have some chats in there, and we discuss some things. But yeah, get into there. We post all of the podcasts from previous. Mostly, what we're doing is all of the markdown files or summaries of all the podcasts, even mine, but mostly Action Detrimental, Dale Jr. Download, the Teardown, and all those. You can find all that information built into there, along with the week's summary of the previous race, which would be Nashville. That's all in there, or actually will all be in there later tonight. I was too busy doing this other stuff and realized that The AI had not updated the website until tonight, and that hasn't been added yet, but it will be in there for past reference or whatever you want to call it. But either way, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Ty Dillon made up our optimal lineup from last week. And our race winner and outside pole sitter, Tyler Reddick, did not make the optimal lineup. Kind of surprising, but not absolutely unsurprising. But they had plenty of points to be in the optimal lineup, just their price didn't quite allow that to happen. So optimal lineups there. The optimal lineup challenge after 14 races, Ty Gibbs still holds the top spot. Denny Hamlin holding down second in with 6. Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Brad Kozlowski all with 5 also. So we keep track of that each week and kind of gives you a quick glance at who has been running well this year and who's taking down optimal lineups. So either way, jump into the chat. Let me know that you're here, and let's get into the FireKeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. It is a 2-mile, 18-degree banked track. It's super wide. It's 5 to 6 grooves wide. You can run 3 or 4 wide through the corners, but when you get to the exit of the corners, you probably want to be more like 2 wide. It really tightens up at the exit of turn 2, and that's typically where, if there's going to be calamity, that's where it's going to be. When comparing this track, it's unique. We used to have Auto Club, which was in Southern California, and it was designed and built after Michigan. And so we had a second comparison track that was out there. Right now, there's no real other track like Michigan. It's super high speeds. They will hit in the draft 203, 204, 205 when getting into both turns 1 and turns 3. They'll slow down, roughly 170 and 180 and back up to 200. So it's an extremely high speed track. Drafting is absolutely key here. And I've been saying for the last, year or so that Atlanta is slowly, because the handling is starting to go away at Atlanta, just slightly, and it'll continue to get more and more as a handling track as the years progress and the weather takes its wear onto that surface. That I think Atlanta and Michigan will become much, much more of a comparison style track than Atlanta to Talladega and Daytona. Just hasn't quite happened quite yet. What's going on, John? What's going on, Freebird? Glad you made it in. Make sure that you hit the like, subscribe button. We try to do this every Saturday night. I was a little leery if I was going to make it tonight because I wasn't sure the AI was going to make it happen. But I tell you what, it came through in a clutch, and we got all the information done. So, like I said, comparison tracks. The AI says Pocono is a comparison, most similar. I think it's because it's roughly half a mile longer, and in one of the corners it's 14 degrees banked. But I don't really compare both Pocono and Indy to Michigan. Like I said, Michigan's kind of a unique track. We put the Eco Park Speedway Atlanta race into it because I think that's more the comparison track. But, what do I know? I just watch the racing. AI just happens to decipher all the information. So, either way, any of these tracks will compare. You can also use any of the 1.5-mile tracks. You can use Kansas. It races somewhat similar. The draft isn't quite as important at Kansas and Charlotte and Vegas, but and they all kind of throw into the same thing. You've got aero issues, you've got handling issues that all kind of come into play with Michigan. So, but that's our comparison tracks. Let's dig into optimal lineups from the last 4 Michigan races. So that's last year's the 2024, 2023, and 2022 races and kind of see what it takes to hit an optimal lineup. Because it's only 200 laps, there's not a huge dominator point variance here. And that's where this kind of comes into play. It races similar to when we're doing DraftKings build-outs. It is similar because of the lack of laps to what you would build for a super speedway. But we don't typically have the big one. It's possible, but typically you don't have the big one at Michigan. So kind of keep that in mind. That's kind of how the build goes. And the optimal lineups, so the way I have this kind of built out is I'm always looking for what the high price drivers are. So anything $8,500 or more, I consider that to be kind of in the higher price range. And then from it's about 6,000 or 6,500 to 8,500 is the next tier, and anything 6,500 or less is kind of the value spots, and that's what the color differential here is, and it kind of shows what those points we're getting. So to make the optimal lineup, we're looking kind of being in that mid 50s range, at least for the expensive drivers. For the less expensive drivers, probably 45 to 50 points will probably get you there. And that's important when we get into the calculator build. And if you're wondering what the calculator build, if you go to racinginthedraft.com and go to up in the top right corner, there's DK calculator, and it will pull up this calculator model. And we'll get into this when we get into the driver breakdown, but you can click on a driver. It's got their last 5 races at this track or similar style tracks. So because of the next gen era and we only race this track once a year, I have also included Michigan for the last 3 years, Atlanta, and Kansas into that equation for the calculator. Let me pull the calculator back up. And what you can do here, and so it also takes into account those 5 tracks that we're comparing to and the last 5 trend, which is the last 5 non-super speedway, non-road course. So typical oval style racetracks. Nashville's in there, Darlington, Dover. So a typical normal oval style is the trend, and that's just the last 5 of that trend. When we go to road courses or super speedways, that trend will be in accordance to the style track. So then what you can kind of do here is, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we start to actually do driver by driver, but if you think Denny Hamlin's going to start first and finish first, you can change that very quickly. And once you reach the optimal 60-point threshold, and it could be slightly less, but 60 would probably easily get you there for the amount of laps we have and dominator points and those types of things. Then you can calculate how many fast laps you think a particular driver is going to get and then how many laps led. Remember, we only have 200 laps here, so the laps led doesn't take a whole lot to get there. And if we go back and look, the optimal lineups, laps led, there's 5 for Denny Hamlin last year, 13 for Chris Buescher, and nobody else led a lap, but nobody else made the optimal lineup. The same thing when we go over to the 2024 race, we had 15 laps led by Tyler Reddick, 2 laps by William Byron, 2 for Ty Gibbs, and 24 for, rest in peace, Kyle Busch. And this kind of gives you an idea, and this is the point total that they needed to get to. So all of those kind of go into the factor of how and who I use for my build-outs, where they're starting, who I think could dominate, who could start up front, stay up front, who might be place differentials, and those types of things. But we'll get into that as we continue on. So this is the 2023 and 2022 look at the optimal lineups. And, you had Martin Truex Jr., who led almost a quarter of the laps at 47. Chris Buescher led 52. So that's between the two of them, they led almost half of the race. Both of them made the optimal lineup. So it's not a huge dominator style track. It is much more finish up front, stay up front. We could see that we had a 5th place start, 4th place start over here for 2022, a 9th and a 1st. The rest of them were place differentials. And then in 2025, we had 3 guys starting in the top 10, 3rd, 6th, and 9th. They both finished 1, 2, and 4. And then the other 3 made out the place differential. And then 2024, we had 2 guys starting in the top 10, and both of those ended up finishing 1, 2. And the rest of it were place differentials. So you can see down here how many dominators we had, how many place differential drivers we had, how many value, and the value is, like I said, about $6,500 or less. Daniel Suarez fell into that last year. And then how many top 5 finishers there were and how much money was left on the board. So definitely go back to this. And what I'll do is I'll try to get this posted into the Discord also, so it's there for anyone to use or look at if you're building lineups. All right, let's get into the driver breakdown, pricing, what they did in practice, and those types of things. So Denny Hamlin at $11,000. If you are been in this channel for a while, got a new graphic over here to the left. Thank you, ChatGPT, for making that. So shout out to them. But Denny Hamlin, $11,000. He did get the pole position over Carson Hocevar today, just a few hours ago. But Denny Hamlin will be starting from the pole. He had the pole last week and jumped the start and went the last immediately. And still came back and won. Possible to do again, but it's a little tough to do at Michigan because they just run so fast lap speeds, but it's definitely possible. Denny Hamlin in practice was 5th and then 3rd. He did 11 laps before he had a tire give out on him after 11 laps. That's a little on the concerning side. We had 4 cars that ended up having that issue during practice. So tire, I wouldn't even say it's tire wear. I mean, what they were doing was they were just too low on tire pressure when they started, which caused the sidewalls of the tires to get damaged. And once they finally got up to full air pressure, they expired and popped pretty much because the sidewalls had gotten abused or damaged, and once the tire pressure came up, they just pop goes a weasel. But Denny Hamlin, $11,000 starting in first. We have the practice laps, the comparison tracks, like I said earlier, Michigan for the last 3 years, Atlanta from earlier this year, and Kansas from earlier this year. Denny Hamlin's got 1 win out of those 5 races, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. He averages a 56.8 Draftkings average for those 5 races, and he was having an average running position of 6th. Denny Hamlin did win this race last year. Denny Hamlin's name is all over this podcast breakdown video, whatever you want to call it. The full history at Michigan, though, for Denny Hamlin is 33 total starts, 3 wins, 13 top 5s, 18 top 10s, 27 top 20s with a 6.4 average finish for Michigan. Denny Hamlin's just... At this point, Denny Hamlin's pretty good at most tracks, except for road courses. That seems to be his Achilles heel. And recently, he's not been great at super speedways, even though before the next-gen car, he was the guy to beat. So the next-gen car has definitely kind of thrown Denny for a loop at both road courses and super speedways. All right, our practice chart here. So pretty much we have the white line here, which is the average lap for all drivers. We have the fastest single lap in red, which is Tyler Reddick. See here. The fastest 10-lap average, which was Chase Elliott in the blue. And then Denny Hamlin's, of course, here. Now, Denny only made it to 11 laps, but the entire time he was much better than average, but he was not as fast as the fast guys in practice. So, I mean, we got a decent amount of practice data. The problem is it's 25 minutes long. And when you're turning 40-second laps, give or take, or 37-second laps, there's only just a certain amount of laps that you can get accomplished and potentially still make adjustments. So we don't have a whole lot of data. I wish they would have longer practice sessions, but I get it. You know, you got to get them all in. But either way, so with all that being said, Denny Hamlin starting from the pole, I think he probably learned his lesson from last week. Probably won't jump the start again, but who knows? Anything's possible. So the question is, do you think Denny finishes in first? So this goes back to the whole thought process of when you're building out your lineups, and whether you're building out one lineup or 20 lineups or 150 lineups. It takes a long time to build all 150 without an optimizer, but I build out about 80 laps, roughly, mostly all hand builds. 40 of them, I kind of have a built-in optimizer for my spreadsheets, but it fills out everything but one driver. Andrew, you heard Denny's going to the rear. I mean, I'm so busy building out all this stuff. It is possible he did have the flat tire. So any of the guys that ended up having issues, did he have a flat tire in practice? So he lost a lot of time on the. Yeah, I mean that's why his practice laps were only 11, and Chase Elliott got to 23. So yes, you are correct. But yes, definitely check. Bob Popkers is usually really good with that. We can do that real quick. Let's see. Old Bob's usually good with notifying what's going on Sunday. Nothing there. He's at the Indy race, so he's been posting mostly Indy stuff, but a lot of times he will post some things on here. Denny Hamlin, yep, with Denny Hamlin having to go to the rear for the start of the race tomorrow, that will mean Hosfar will be the control car at the start of the race, but won't get lane choice. Okay. So yep, he is going to the rear. My guess is we'll probably end up seeing Austin Cindric also going to the rear because he had a flat tire in practice. I'm trying to remember who else had flats in practice. Like I said, he's at Indy. But so yeah, so that definitely changes the potential. It's like, do you think Denny can make it to the front? He will be scored from the pole position for Draftkings. That will be his starting spot, regardless. So that changes my whole thought process and story, and that will probably take Denny Hamlin out of a lot of my builds, because regardless if there's a lot of dominator points available, I just think if you're going to go to the rear, you're not going to make it to the front to lead a bunch of laps. I mean, let's go back and look. Denny went from first to last week, and that probably, I mean, he still led 57 laps, but there were 300 laps. Nashville was a little easier to get to the front. So, not saying it's not possible, but I'm definitely going to bring the laps led down to 10? Fast laps, he might have some extra fast laps because he'll be back in the draft and able to draft around guys, but he'll also have to be slower to try to get around guys. So we'll take the fast laps down to 5. and we'll put his projected finishing spot at 5. And that's a 43.8. So when you're using this, and I repeated this a couple times last week if anybody happened to use this, once you hit the lock score, you can come back and make a change. But you don't want to leave or close this page because then you'll have to just start all over. So if you happen to build out everybody and don't end up saving the CVS file or CSV file from over here, it will all disappear on you. Yes, Barry also, well, Barry spun in qualifying. Did he? I don't think he had a tire go down in practice, did he? I made notes and I forgot to transfer that over to this computer. Let me see if I can find that. Cindric had a rear left tire go down. Denny had the left rear tire go down in practice. Christopher Bell had a front left go down, but I think he was able to make it to pit road without much of any issues. But I thought Denny Hamlin made it to pit road without much of any issues. Eric Jones lost a tire at the very end of practice. So definitely check tomorrow on any of those guys had to make repairs and go to the back. And that's the case for anybody. If all of a sudden they get up in the morning and they start to do all of their checks and they realize that, hey, our power steering is out and they've got to make that repair, that's not a eligible repair to be made to the car. So they would have to go to the rear. Those things happen. Just make sure you check with Jayski, Bob Popkris, Jeff Gluck, any of the Matt Weaver, any of the guys that are at the track. They'll post it on Twitter X, and you can go from there. So once you hit the save and the score's locked, cool. Move on to the next driver, which would be Tyler Reddick. Which let's go break down Tyler Reddick. 10,700, starting from the third position. He was fastest in single lap practice. He did 19 total laps of practice. He wasn't first in first. Not first for pin run speed was Chase Elliott. Did I mess that up somehow? Possibly. It happens. The window between the two was extremely short. Practice 10 lap. Tyler Reddick. Chase Elliott was second fastest in 10 laps. Is that correct? I have another place I can go. Let's see. I just want to double check that. Sorry about that. I should have checked it before I went live, but I always want to try to get on here by 9 o'clock, and having it be such a short time frame between practice and trying to go live. Practice 1, 10 lap. Oh, it's Tyler Reddick. I was right. Okay. Good to know. So yeah, but Chase Elliott was the second fastest in 10 lap. That's probably why the AI skipped to that. Yeah, Reddick was fastest across the board. He's starting from the third position. Chevys are really quick. Tyler Reddick is on a year to remember, to say the least. So that goes back to the question: do you think? So Tyler Reddick will, since he's starting from the third, he'll move up on the front row next to Carson Hocevar after Denny has to drop to the rear. So Tyler Reddick will pretty much start from pole position, even though the pole position will get credited to, I guess, it still gets credited to Denny. So, Either way, it should be Carson Hocevar on the outside in the second spot, and Tyler Reddick, since he was third, would move up into Denny's spot on the pole. So that being said, fastest in practice, fastest in 10 lap. I mean, I don't see any indication of, unless Hocevar will will fight tooth and nail to lead some laps. This is Hocevar's home track. He grew up just very close to Michigan. He's definitely going to want to win. The problem is when Hocevar tries too hard, it ends up being an issue for him. But we'll get to the Hocevar driver card in a second. Let's break down Tyler Reddick. So I think Tyler Reddick definitely takes the lead early and holds on to it for a while. Did I put the stage breaks in here? Yep, 45, 75, and 80. So stage 1 is the shortest of them. The question is, I mean, we had tire failures after 11. Nobody's run 45 laps. I think all of them, can they go 45 laps on a tank of fuel? It's close. At stage 2 and stage 3, they definitely are going to need to pit at least once, if not twice. So I think they probably pit if stage 1 stays green for the entire race or the entire stage. Either way, I'm still going to put Tyler Reddick into the spot of running at least probably if we stay green and everything stays normal, I think he goes and leads probably the first 20 laps. And that goes into the importance of the breakdown. Now, Tyler Reddick at Michigan has been about awful. 5 races total, no wins, no top 5s, no top 10s, only 1 top 20 with a 23.8 average finish. But what's Tyler Reddick done this year? Outperformed dramatically at every race they've been to. So I'm still going to take Tyler Reddick as an early leader. The question is, can he continue to hold on to averaging a top 10 finish? Well, let's just give him a 7th place. Let's give him that first 20 laps led, and we'll give him 10 fast laps. Well, if he finishes in 7th, that's a 46.5. So if you think Tyler Reddick gets a better spot and finishes in 1st, but only leads 20 laps and 10 laps of fast laps, it's 56.5. Still, that's going to be borderline of getting there. So to finish in 1st, he would need to lead, to get to the 60, he's going to need to lead 34 laps, but he'll have a few more fast laps than that. I always do it kind of a 2-for-1. Go 26, 13. Nope, it needs to be 28 and 14. Would probably that would put him to the 60. So 3rd to 1st, lead 28 laps, have 14 fast laps. That puts him in there. I still think that somebody else ends up winning this race. But we'll leave the 28 and 14 kind of alone there. And 3rd to 6th, 51.3. So we'll lock the score in there. And as you can see, go to rankings, it's going to start to build out the drivers with the highest point total. And then the top 15 will automatically figure out who your top 15 drivers are, and it highlights it over there. All right, Kyle Larson's next in line here. And yes, everyone, you can go use that fun little calculator at racinginthedraft.com. Make sure you go there. Also, like and subscribe to the video and join the Discord. Links down below. All right, Kyle Larson, 10,500, starting from 7th. Finally, the first practice session that I feel like the Chevys actually have not quite the same speed as the Toyotas, but at least they're closer. And that's the first time this year with this new body style that I think the Chevys actually have some pretty decent speed, which makes sense to finally for the Chevy guys to figure out, or the engineers and teams and all that to figure out how to create speed with this new body style. I think the Chevys end up having a fairly decent race. I think the Toyotas are also going to be very, very tough. They have been all year. There's no reason to change that thought process. The Fords are still a huge question mark. There was only one Ford in the top 10 in speed, and that was Ryan Blaney. Surprise, surprise. He typically is one of the faster Fords. And there's a handful of other Fords that, because they're starting spots, that I definitely think could contend for at least DraftKings spots. Getting a win might be a long shot, but place differentials and those types of things, I think definitely they can play. But Kyle Larson starting in 7th, he was 3rd in single lap, he was 4th in 10 lap consecutive average, he did 26 total laps of practice. And the 5 tracks we're comparing to, he's got 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 33.0 DraftKings average, 15.6 average running position. He finished 5th in this race last year here at Michigan. 16 total starts. He's got 3 wins here. This is one of Kyle Larson's better tracks. Now, as long as you think the Chevy's speed is finally back, and you think Kyle Larson has been one of the fastest Chevys so far this year, if you think Kyle Larson can end up finishing a top 5 position, then he might be a driver to look at. Looking at Kyle Larson's speed, he was fast to come out. Then I think we had a pretty early caution for one of the flat tires. May have been Denny. They made some adjustments, and then they came back out and ran again. It's so hard when they've got these cautions in the middle of practice because the tire cools, they change setups, but everybody has to kind of deal with that same thing. Either way, he's much faster than the average laps. So let's put him on the calculator and see what we got here. All right. Kyle Larson starting in 7th. If you think he's top 5, we'll give him a, 3rd, 4th place finish. Laps led, probably not going to be that many. We'll take it down to, I think he leads some laps. I think it's, roughly about 20, potentially. And we'll give him the 2-for-1 special with 10 fast laps. It's 52.5 with a 4th place finish. If you think he can go out and win, you just slide him on down to 1. And if he's got the 20 and 10, it gets into the 60. I'm going to leave him probably at about a 4th place finish. Just kind of where I'm thinking he might fall. He could still win, which would just increase his point total and lock the score in. And as you can see, the rankings start to change. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that throughout this video. All right, next in line here, Ryan Blaney at 10,200, starting in the 19th position. The Fords really struggled in qualifying and really struggled in practice. Like I said, Blaney was the fastest Ford in practice at 9th. He did 23 laps of practice. There was a quiet whisper right as they were going to commercial on the practice that they thought Ryan Blaney may have had a tire going down. I have not heard that was actually the case, but everybody else seemed to have tire issues, so why not? And he was 24th in 10 lap consecutive average. And for the 5 races we're comparing to, no top 5s, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, and 18.6 average running position. He finished 32nd in this race last year. 15 total starts at Michigan with 1 win, 4 top 5s, 7 top 10s, an average finish of 16.2. Starting in 19th, we've got some place differential potential here with Ryan Blaney. He is here in the, I guess it's green. And he's closer to the average, not as fast as the Chevys or Toyotas, which kind of thought was the case. And his long run speed definitely was not Ryan Blaney-esque, in my opinion. So with that being said, he does have some place differential potential. The averages say he's going to probably end up finishing 19th. Maybe we give him a 9th place finish. And I'm not sure I think if there's a chance for Ryan Blaney to lead laps, it will be during green flag pit cycles. He has a tendency to run a little bit longer, wait a little bit longer. He takes care of his stuff, and then that's how a lot of times he will gain track position. And then, if there's not a caution that's timely, he'll lose some of that track position, and then his pit crew will suck, and he'll lose even more track position. That's kind of how Ryan Blaney's year has gone. But I think the 6-3 is possible. And if he finishes in ninth, it takes him to a 47.9. If you think Ryan Blaney ends up fifth, you just move the calculator and he goes to fifth and it changes. If he finishes first or second, it's probably definitely going to put him in the optimal lineup. But finishing fifth puts him roughly maybe close, depending on how lineups end up falling. If he finishes ninth, it's going to be pretty tough at a 47.9 at a $10,200 price tag. Does that make the optimal? It still will be a decent day. It just won't be, it might not be optimal. So that's all depending on Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, and Kyle Larson, and how the rest of your build ends up going out. So we'll kind of lock Ryan Blaney in at a 47.9. We'll check the rankings, and that puts him third on the rankings currently. All right, Christopher Bell will be next in line. Maybe. There's Christopher Bell. All right, Christopher Bell, $10,000 starting in the 8th position. He was 13th in single lap, did 19 laps of practice, 6th in the 10-lap consecutive average. At Michigan and the two other tracks we're comparing to, Atlanta and Kansas, no top 5s, no top 10s, 3 top 20s. Okay, that's decent, but a 21st place average running position. He led quite a few laps in the truck race today, and then ended up choosing the wrong lane on the final restart and was mired back in 4th or 5th for the rest of the race. He finished 16th in this race last year. 5 races here total. He's never finished in the top 10 with an 18th place average average finish. Look at his practice speeds. He started off a little slow, that kind of got a little faster, and then kind of went back to the average again. Christopher Bell's had a really, really solid year, just hasn't quite had the finishes he would like. In the last 2 races, he's probably been the fastest car on track, and just bad restarts or teammates not playing nicely with him has put him back to 2nd or 3rd. So the speed has definitely been there. The Toyotas have definitely shown speed. I think he gets his first potentially top 5 or top 10 here at Michigan. So, you take him and move him to 3rd. And let's say he's able to lead 12 laps in 6, takes him to a 51.7. I think those are reasonable. He could always finish in 1st. He could also always finish way worse. If you roll it all the way back, it ends up being really bad. I think a good solid 3rd place finish is decent, puts him to 51.7. We'll lock it in, check the rankings. That puts him 2nd on the rankings list. All right, Chase Briscoe next in line here. $9,700 starting from 5th. His practice speed was 25th and 30th. Not great on the practice speeds. At Michigan, he's actually, or at the 5 tracks we're comparing to, Atlanta and Kansas have been much better. Michigan's been an Achilles heel, but it's been an Achilles heel for a lot of the Toyotas and the Chevys. This was Ford's playground for a long time. So that's not fully surprising. But the Toyotas this year have been way faster than everyone else. In the last, like I said, they finished 23rd here last year. In the 4 starts, he doesn't have a top 10, 2 top 20s, 18th place average finish. Look at his practice speeds. They're not great. Especially starting in the 5th position. That's a little worrisome. I don't love it. It's just going to all depend on late pit stops and things like that, and where you think he ends up finishing. I'm going to give him a 10th. And I think that that puts him in a top 10 for the first time at Michigan. And fast laps, laps led, 6 and 3. That takes him to a 36.9. It's not great. Like I said, you can build out your own calculator. You can put him in first if you want. But you can just kind of see that because of the lack of Dominator points that are out there, it just makes it really tough. And if you don't finish better than where you start, probably not going to be a great day. All right, Ty Gibbs, next in line here at 9,500, starting from fourth. He was 16th in single lap, 20th in 10 lap. At the 5 tracks we're comparing to, he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 12.6 average running position. He finished third here at Michigan last year. Of the 3 total starts, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, 6.5 average finish. That might be the best average finish we've seen so far. I think Denny Hamlin was like 6.6 or something. But it's 3 races compared to 33 races. So the comparison's not really that great. And if we look at the actual chart for practices, he's better than average for most of it. A couple spots, but he's not as fast as Chase Elliott or Tyler Reddick. And starting from the 5th position, it's going to be tough. The projection has him as a 13th place finish with 1 lap led, 7 fast laps, 34.5. I think it's more like probably 4. It maybe if he gets up and leads 4 laps, maybe he gets a top 10. I'm going to put him at 8th. And we'll do 6 and 3. I think that's actually being kind of generous. So we'll lock it in and move on to the next. We'll look at the rankings real quick. And Kyle Larson's still sitting up top. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin. That Denny Hamlin going to the rear is going to make things much, much tougher for him to be in a whole lot of lineups. He'll still get ownership because he went from first to first last week. But he also didn't make the optimal lineup. He was there, just the price tag didn't let him get there. All right, Chase Elliott, 9,300, starting in the 6th spot. He was 2nd fastest in both single lap and 10 lap. Yeah, I think the Chevys and the Hendrick Chevys, especially, I think Spire's also kind of figured it out too. But I think both the Hendrick and the Spire cars have figured out the speed issue out of these Chevys. Now, we'll have to see what a race is like, but this whole past year, the Chevys have actually even been slow in practice. And now they're showing speed. Now, does that equate to a good finish? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. You just kind of have to take practice for what it is and build out lineups if you think practice is a true indicator. And I kind of have found out that it kind of is. So I would kind of trust the practice speeds, especially the qualifying. But for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, only 1 top 10, 4 top 20s, a 17th place average running position. He finished 15th in this race last year. 10th place average finish, over 13 starts, no wins, 3 top 5s, 9 top 10s. Pretty consistent with a 10th or better place finish. Of course, we've been looking at Chase Elliott's practice speed for most of this, and we will continue because he's one of the comparison cars. Way better than average for the majority for all of practice. Not quite as fast as Tyler Reddick, but I don't know if I necessarily think he's going to go out and beat a Tyler Reddick. He could. He was fast. Tyler Reddick has a slight issue, which happens. We'll we'll give old Chase Elliott a third place finish, and I think the 6 fast laps and 12 laps led are perfectly fine. So we'll lock him in there. And we'll move on to William Byron. Anybody got any thoughts, questions, or concerns? Do you guys like the graphics? Don't like the graphics? Do you like the calculator? Did you use the calculator last week? I mentioned to know if you used it, if it helped out, or didn't help out. So let me know in the chat. All right. William Byron, 9,100. Wow. I remember when William Byron was always $10,000 or more. Now he's down to 9,100. It's been a rough start to 2026 for William Byron. Starting in the 9th position, he was 8th in single lap, did 25 laps of practice. He had a really, really consistent car all of practice. He thought the car was very well balanced and no real issues. 5th in the 10-lap consecutive average run. And the 5 racers we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s with a 20th place average running position. That's not great. And this race last year, he finished 28th, 9 total starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 10, 6 top 20s, a 16th place average finish. Looking at the charts, and once again, he's not as fast as his teammate, and definitely not as fast as Tyler Reddick. And, even during his interview, he was like, you know what? I just need to have a really good, consistent race, no issues, no problems, and just have a good finish. So with that being said, we'll give him a good finish, and it'll be 7th. I don't think he leads 24 laps. I think there are other drivers like a Tyler Reddick or Carson Hocevar that end up potentially leading more laps than William Byron. I could be wrong about that, but we'll 10 and 5. How's that? 43.8. So that's kind of where I'm thinking it'll be. So we'll lock that score in. We'll check the rankings real quick and kind of see where we're at. And that's kind of where the build is at this point. We'll just keep checking it periodically. And like I said, make sure as long as you don't close this page, you don't want to go to any of the other sites. You want to keep this one page open. Once you get done, you can save the CSV file. Cool. Thank you, Freebird. Appreciate it. Were you able to use the calculator last week, or did you even know about the calculator last week? And if not, make sure you give it for a spin this week. I think it's very helpful. It's really helpful if you happen to play the Pick 6 on Draftkings, because they have a, how many total points will they score? And of course, you can figure out fast laps and laps led or finishing position, but they also have a Draftkings points total. And that calculator makes it real quick and easy to kind of see where they're at and who to maybe bet on or not bet on. Daniel, what's up, buddy? Be listening along late night. How did trucks? The trucks were not good. My kid had a baseball tournament this weekend, and his game started at 10:30. Of course, that's when practice and qualifying started. Cell phone coverage was little to none at the baseball field. I had already saved and reserved my lineups. By the time we got done with that, we went to lunch with family. I'm literally sitting at Panera Bread talking to family and feverishly punching in who I thought might have a decent race, and barely got the stuff in. So it is what it is. I even thought this morning, I was like, it's really dumb for me to put any more than 3 lineups in, and I should have just listened to my thought and just moved on. Daniel says we had dinner date to celebrate. Oh, 4-year anniversary. Congratulations. Yes, go put the kiddos to bed and enjoy your anniversary. Don't spend time hanging out with my ugly mug. Yeah, go hang out with your wife. You can watch the video tomorrow. Make sure you use a calculator. Make sure you hit me up in the Discord or shoot me a text if you have any questions. All right. Chris Buescher, 8,900, starting 14th. He actually, I didn't even pick up on that. He was 4th in practice, so he would actually have been the fastest forward in practice. not Ryan Blaney. I stand corrected. 7th and 10 lap consecutive average. He does have the one win here at Michigan. I think that actually was his first win in 2022, 23. I think he was the last Ford to win. But he has 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. Mr. Consistent, 6.8 average running position for the 5 tracks we're comparing to. He finished second in this race last year behind Denny Hamlin. 13 total starts. I mean, all 10 he's finished in the 10 out of those 13 he's finished in the top 20, a 16.9 average finish. Pretty consistent. And I actually kind of like his starting spot. There is a little bit of place differential there, but we'll look more into that here in a minute. Practice speeds, yeah, he was fast at points and times. I mean, then the fall off is really not bad here. I mean, even for the average, we're looking at just right at 38 and at 28, 29 laps, which there wasn't a whole lot of cars that did that. We were 38 and a half. I mean, we're only talking about a half a second fall off. So this is not typically a huge caution style track. It's much more, if your car runs really well at the bottom and the other driver's running at the top, you can potentially make moves. You can get around in the draft, but it's not a huge place differential track. I mean, we can even go back and look at the optimal lineups. I mean, Daniel Suarez made it last year because he was 6,600. I mean, other than that, it was 27th, 9th, 6th, 20th, 30th. 2024, Zane Smith at 5,400 was the reason he made it, starting in 27th. Everybody else started in the top 20. 2023, Corey LaJoie at 5,500, starting 31st. But most everybody starting in the top 20. It's not a huge place differential style track. There are some guys that should end up finishing slightly better than where they're at, but buyer beware. I mean, Josh Berry's starting 37th. He spun. He's going to have to start from the rear anyways. So they'll make whatever repairs they need to make and move on. But all it takes is one slip, one issue, and you start 37th and you finish in 37th. And then it's just a rough go. But back to Chris Buescher. I think this is I agree with you, Freebird. I think this is a potential for Chris Buescher to have a really good, solid weekend. Does he win? I'm not real sure, but if he finishes in 7th, has 13 laps led, 10 fast laps, I'm going to bump this down to 10 and 5, but I'm going to bump him up to a top 5 finish. Gives him 52.8. So I definitely do like the Buescher play this weekend. We'll lock him at 52.8, and that takes him actually to the top of the board. So there we go. But I definitely like the Buescher play. 14th, I'm perfectly fine with. And after looking at the optimal lineups from the past 4 races here, I mean, that's a pretty solid starting spot. All right, Carson Hocevar, the hometown boy, $8,700 starting outside pole, or now, I mean, still starting in the front row. I don't know why Bob Hawkers was like, "Oh, Carson Hocevar gets to start from pole position," because he can't. That's Denny's. Then he just has to go to the rear at the start before they go green, which moves Reddick up to that spot. So it's more like Reddick got the pole, not Hocevar. Whatever. Semantics. Starting, of course, like I said, second. He was 14th in 10 lap, or 10th in 1 lap, 14th in the 10 lap average. He did do 29 laps of practice. That's actually a lot of practice laps. He ran the truck race really well today also. For the 5 tracks we're comparing to, now he's only got 1 start here at Michigan where he finished 29th, which was last year. So the other 2 races would be the Atlanta earlier this year, the Kansas earlier this year, and of course, like I said, the 2025 race. 14th place average running position. And Carson and Hocevar's practice speeds, I mean, they're actually pretty consistent. Especially towards the long run. He actually got a little faster as the long run went. So, starting outside pole, that's going to be the tough pill to swallow. I mean, the data points aren't huge here. Like I said, he's got a 29th place finish here last year. I mean, this just goes into what's your gut feeling for Hocevar. Do you think he ends up winning this race or having a third place finish? Potentially. I mean, starting from second, he's going to have the potential to lead some laps. So we'll move him up to 16, and he's always typically fast. So we'll definitely make sure he's got the 8 fast laps. But even finishing in first, it takes him to 53.6. At 8,700, that's probably enough to get in there. But the problem is if he finishes fourth, it's 47. If he finishes 14th, it's 37.6. So this one's the Costa of our play is definitely much more of a. Do you think he ends up finishing this race well, and do you think he ends up leading a bunch of laps? I will run some lineups that I will have Costa Hocevar as a guy that goes out and leads 30 laps and has 16 fast laps and wins. And that's 60.7. My honest build, though, is probably like 6th, and maybe he still leads like 20 laps and has 10 fast laps. I think that's more realistic. It could go he finishes 37th and wrecks the first lap, or maybe he does really well and finishes 6th. I'm going to kind of leave him here for my purposes, but it's such a gut check call that you could do either one. And I'm not sure I would have much room for an argument on either side of it. I could see where he would do really well and where he might not. Bubba Wallace. Man, Bubba Wallace needs a just good old-fashioned top 10 finish. I felt really bad for Bubba Wallace last week in Nashville. He seemed to be almost heartbroken. He just needs a good, solid finish. The Toyotas have plenty of speed here. The question is, can he not get collected in somebody else's mess? Price tag at 8,500. I think that's fair. Starting in 13th. His practice speeds were top 10, 7th and 9th. 5 races we're comparing to are all pretty solid. 12.2 average running position. He finished 4th here last year. I'm going to put Bubba Wallace down for a nice solid 7th or 8th place finish. But realistically, it could be 32nd and he gets tangled up in somebody else's mess. And he could also, the 2311 cars have all shown plenty of speed. The Toyotas are showing plenty of speed. He could go out and win this thing. And just have a real bounce back weekend. But practice speeds were slightly better than average for most of practice. Like I said, he actually got out to 31 laps of practice. Yeah, 31 laps of practice, that's pretty good. So he's got the car shaken down. He's good to go. So we'll give him just a 7th place finish. Plenty of speed in that car. We'll go 14 and 7. We'll leave him at a 49.7. I don't mind that at all. It could easily be Bubba Wallace's curse could continue on, or he could break the curse and get a much better finish. Well, I'm going to leave him at a 7th. Then I say you get to go build your own calculator, however you want. If you don't like my thought processes, cool, that's fine. Go use my calculator and build it out. That's one of the things I'm so excited about, is having that ability for all the viewers and listeners and guys that come in here or girls that come in here and go, I don't think that's the case. What would it actually be if I thought he was going to finish whatever? Well, you can go put it on the calculator and find out. All right. That's Bubba's practice speeds. Joey Logano. Miserable year so far for Joey Logano. And if anybody's watched this channel for a long time, they know that I don't have much love lost for Joey Logano. So I'm not crying a whole lot over the fact that Joey Logano is having a tough year. But I try to come in with a realistic thought process. Whatever I put Ryan Blaney to finish, I don't think, regarding other than a wreck, I mean, I've got him 19th. I don't think Joe Logano ends up finishing any better than that. He was 15th and 15th in practice, qualified 18th. I mean, I'll give him a 17th place finish. I mean, at the 5 tracks we're comparing to, it's not great. No top 5s, no top 10s, and that's the last 3 Michigan races. 23.4 average running position. He finished 22nd this race last year. Ever since the next gen era car, he struggled here. Prior to that, he was great. Like I said, this was Ford's backyard playground. 27 total starts, 3 wins, 8 top 5, 17 top 10s, 20 out of 27 top 20s, 13th place average finish. Not quite as good as Denny Hamlin's average finish, but the Fords used to be really good, and they're struggling. Now his practice speeds are better than average, but he's starting right at average, so maybe he improves slightly. Maybe he does go and beat Ryan Blaney this week. All right, we put Ryan Blaney at 19th, maybe 14th for Joey. But I don't think he even leads any laps. We'll give him the 1, and I'll give him 2 fast laps, 35.2. I just don't think he gets any better than that. So, Ross Chastain, next in line here, $8,100, starting 32nd. Boy, just missed on qualifying because he was decent in practice, 6th in single lap, 11th and 10 lap consecutive average. He did 30 laps of practice. Good for him. All things pointing in the right direction there, except for qualifying. He actually missed coming out of turn 3, turn 4, and got off the throttle. Have I said how much I enjoy Prime's coverage way more than Fox's? Yeah, I enjoy Fox's coverage about as much as I enjoy watching Joey Logano race. But Ross Chastain, for the 5 races we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, for 13.4 average running position. He did finish 6th in this race here last year. 7 starts, no top 5s, 2 top 10s, a 25.8 average finish. Ugh, that's not good. Practice speeds were about average. Fired off a little faster than average, and then kind of just bounced around the average line for the rest of practice. So, starting in 32nd, though, if we think he's going to get to, I mean, the calculator says 13th. That's the same tracks and the trend. The trend is not good. An average finish of 30th. So, yeah. 13th. I don't think we lead any laps starting in 30 seconds. So we'll take that down just to the 1. And we'll leave him with 2 fast laps. Do you think he can get up to 13th? Or more like 15th? I think 15th probably more of a... We'll cut it in. We'll split it. We'll go to 16th. That makes up half. 45.2. Lock his score in, and we'll move on from there. Brad Keselowski. I genuinely think that the RFK cars, especially Brad and Buescher, could end up having probably really good days. I mean, if we go back and look at the optimal lineups real quick, there's one name that keeps popping up. I mean, we have Brad here, 2025. Brad's not in 2024, but Busher is. But 2022, there's Brad. 2023, there's Brad. So Brad has found a way of making 3 of the 4 last optimal lineups. Busher's in 1, 2, 3. The RFK duo between those two has been really, really good here. So just kind of take that for what it's worth. Not saying that that's going to be what happens this week, but I think this is a potential for an RFK decent day. Maybe not go out and win, but I think just a good, solid finish. And where they're starting, that gives some place differential. So Brad Kozlowski, 7,900, starting 26th. Practice speeds were not great, 26th and 31st. That's a little concerning. But the last 5 races here, 2 top 5s, or the 5 races we're comparing to, because it's got Atlanta, Kansas in it. 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, 8.4 average running position. Finished 10th here at this race last year. That's probably a decent spot to put him as a finish. 26 total starts, no wins, 13.9 average running position. Freebird says it's his home track, never won there. He wants it. Who? Brad K? I thought Brad K was he from Michigan? Why did I think he was? No, it's his RFK's home is up in. Yeah. Roush was up from up north. Huh. I bet he really would love to win here. I think you are right. Where is Brad Kozlowski from? Yeah. Rochester Hills, Michigan. I completely forgot about that. Good call out, Freebird. Yeah, so he and Hocevar, both from Michigan. And if I remember correctly, Matt Kenseth was from Michigan. There have been a couple drivers that have come out of Michigan that have been pretty good. Yeah, he probably would love to get a win here, to get his first win. Definitely Ford's playground, but his practice speeds, he's not going to do it with that practice speed, that's for sure. Now, Brad's kind of like Ryan Blaney. He has a tendency to save his tires, save some fuel, run longer than everybody else, and wait for that just right caution to fall. But if we put Brad on the old calculator here, I mean the inner projected stats autofill from the same track averages. So that's this average here gives an 8th place average finish. If we leave that where it is, now I don't think it's 5 laps led and 7 fast laps. I could see going with a 5 and a 3, but that's still 56.7. Now, if you don't think Brad quite gets there and he finishes 10th, which I kind of thought when I first looked at it, that would probably be a decent spot for him. We'll leave all that alone. 52.7, we'll lock that score in. So, and he's also under that threshold, that the threshold's now at 55 points, so he's close. I mean, it still puts him top 5 of the guys that I have put in the ranking so far. Puts him second. Busher, Kozlowski, Larson, Bell. Okay. Continue to build. Let's continue to look. But yeah, good call out, Freebird. I'd forgotten that he was from Michigan. Priest is from the Northeast. Where's Busher from? I'm not even sure where Busher's from. Prosper, Texas. That's right. He's the old Texas boy. Kind of grew up around dirt tracks back in the day. He and Bell are kind of from that same thought process. All right, Daniel Suarez, $7,700, starting in 11th. Daniel quietly is having a phenomenal year. I mean, shocking, not shocking, I guess. But yeah, I mean, man, Justin Haley missed out on that ride. That is for sure. But Aspire has definitely made a huge progression forward this year. Starting in 11th, he was 14th in single lap, 25th in 10 lap. At the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. Finished in 14th here last year. 11 total starts. I mean, half the time he's finishing top 20, 19.8. I'm going to say that Daniel Suarez is not going to have the day he's been having recently. I think he has an issue. Maybe ends up finishing a lap down, like in 22nd. Just a gut feeling. But his practice speeds were not bad, better than average. Not quite as good as Elliott or Reddick's, but still better than the average line. And starting from the 11th spot, I mean, it's got a projection of 10. I'm going to bump him up to like 14. I don't think he leads that many laps. We'll give him the 1, and we'll give him 2 fast laps. I'm going to lock him in there. I think Daniel has an issue this week. Gut feeling. Don't know why. Just gut feeling. And I've always said on here, if I have something to back it in facts, I'll back it up in facts. But if I don't think it's factual, I'll just say, hey, it's a gut check feeling, and we'll move on. Ryan Preece, 7,500, the last of the RFK drivers. And who knows where Ryan Preece is going to go next year, because RFK lost that charter, and it's moving over to Legacy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ryan Preece. I'm sure he'll get a ride. He's more than capable of pulling that out. The problem is, with all the moving chairs going on this year, I mean, maybe Ryan Preece, I don't think he goes to RCR, because they got Jesse Love and they've got Austin Hill. I don't know where Ryan Preece ends up landing. I hope he lands somewhere, because I'd like watching Ryan Preece drive. He's a good dude. I've met him a couple times. Very friendly, easy to talk to. Starting 27th though, practice 20th and 16th. It's kind of where the RFK guys were kind of practicing anyways. Brad was a little bit slower. For the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. 12.4, he finished 9th in this race last year, 15.6 average finish. And boy, yeah, he did make some notes on Preece earlier when I was watching practice. Preece was, Ryan Preece notified, he said he was very loose. He put it for adjustments and was still loose. So, I mean, loose is better than tight at Michigan. So, just makes you feel like you're going to spin out the entire time. They'll make adjustments. They'll be okay. Now, the question is, Ryan Preece starting 27th. This has a projection of 12. We'll split the bathwater here and go to 14th. Everybody gets 1 token lap led, and we'll go the 2 fast laps. 27th to 14th. But we got place differential here. We'll lock that in and we'll move on. Eric Jones next up here. Eric Jones quietly having a tremendous last 4 or 5 races. And he's backing it up with starting in 10th. Good for Eric Jones. Yeah, I was wondering when Legacy would finally get their act together. It looks like they may have actually gotten their stuff together. Starting in 10th, practice 19th and 12th in the last 5 races that we're comparing to. No top 5s, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, a 16.8 average running position. He finished 11th here at Michigan last year. 11 total starts, 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, but 9 out of those 11, he's finished in the top 20. 15.7 average finish. I think they're kind of on a really good trajectory. And actually, I really like his practice speeds. They're really consistent and better than average. I think he ends up having a good, solid top 10 day. We'll put him at 7th. We'll give him the 1 and 2, and we'll just lock it in from there. SVG, the oval specialist, I guess, until this week. Anytime SVG starts up in the top 10, he seems to be okay. If he starts 25th or worse, it's going to be a long day. And he's starting 30th, and his practice speeds were not all that great. Another gut check, and they're kind of back to a little bit of fact that I just don't think he has a phenomenal day. I mean, maybe he gets like a 21st or 22nd type of finish. He's got a 20th place average running position. Now he's only got one Michigan start and Atlanta and Kansas to fall back on. So, I kind of think probably right where all this is kind of pointing, 18th, 19th, 20th. Practice speeds were worse than average for all of practice. So, yeah. 22nd. Well, everybody gets the 1 token lap led, 2 fast laps. Yep, we'll leave it there. 30.2. Lock it in and move on. Austin Cindric, next in line here at $7,000, starting in 31st. Practice speeds were 21st. He did 8 laps, 27th and 10 lap consecutive average. Well, he didn't. Because everybody gets a 10 lap consecutive average. He did not actually get to 10 laps. It's just where that fell into the grouping. 8 total laps of practice till he blew out his left rear. Which was an air pressure issue. They'll bump his air pressures up for tomorrow. I think he'll be okay. Now he may have to go to the rear, which means he only falls back another 6 spots. But all the averages, none of it's good. Out of the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 2 top 5s at 21.8 average running position. He finished 31st in this race last year. 3 starts here, only 1 top 20, a 34th place average finish. And like I said, practice speeds were never really that good. And then he blew out that left rear. So, I think finishing 22nd's generous. Don't think he leads any laps. We'll give him the 1 and 2 tokens. In fact, probably 1 and 1. 31st to 22nd. And like I said, I think that's being generous. But I'll leave it there and just kind of lock it in. So I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of Austin Cindric. I'll have a couple because of his place differential. If we happen to have a lot of attrition, he's able to make up some room. Alex Bowman, 6,900, starting in the 29th position. His practice speeds were not good. 33rd in single lap, 35th and 10 lap. He didn't actually do a 10 lap consecutive average. Pretty much everybody from 22nd or 23rd back in 10 laps is not really true. It just follows where they were for their practice speeds. I know it's all misleading, but it really was how I could only do it quickly with the AI trying to explain. They actually never did a 10 lap. 5 tracks we're comparing to, 1 top 20, 27.4 average running position. I mean, Alex Bowman's going to be battling with Austin Cindric for just really crappy finish here. 14 total starts here at Michigan, 3 top 10s, no top 5s, a 19th place average finish. Practice speeds were not good at all for practice, especially compared to his teammates. This is not what Alex Bowman needs to try to secure his ride for next year. They're going to really have to do much better in the race tomorrow. And none of the averages are there. So that's kind of worrisome. I mean, the projected AI spot is 27th. I mean, we'll bump it and give him a 23rd. I don't see him leading any laps. or having very many fast laps. So I'm going to lock him in at a 24.8 and say, I mean, once again, because of his starting spot in 29th and it being a Hendrick, he will be. So I always have my core 15, then I have my sub core, which is the next 7, 8 drivers. So that takes me to about 22 drivers that I use. And then I'll piecemeal the rest of the drivers in. And because Alex Bowman's driving a Hendrick car, I'll give him some ownership for that, but it will be in kind of some wild lineups. And it'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna put it in, not really thinking that it's actually gonna fly. So he's not in my do not use at all, but he's not in my core or sub core. He kind of falls in that little weird area between, especially at 6,900. He's fairly inexpensive. Family Man, welcome to the chat, buddy. Host apart is your sneaky lap leader, Dominator tomorrow. Okay. Won't have him more than 10 to 15%, but I like the play. You can really make some unique lineups using him as one of your 2 lap leaders. Okay. Rich says, this is interesting. NASCAR is fixed. It's all Toyotas there handing Hamlin a championship this year. I guess lawsuits matter. Wow, we jumped way out into the conspiracy train, didn't we? Okay. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. I've been to way too many NASCAR tracks, too many races, been up and down pit road too many times, sat on pit boxes and everything else. And if you think NASCAR is fixed, I got a couple bridges to sell you too. So I'll let you can believe whatever you want. That's fine. But there's too many variables that happen for NASCAR to be fixed. Now, yeah, I mean, the problem is the guys that run really well will run really well. And Denny Hamlin is on top of his game right now. So, yeah, I hear you. It does seem a little weird, but yeah, no. I mean, if that were the case, then Bubba Wallace would be running a lot better. Rich says 60 to 70% in the top 10 this year are Toyotas. Sure. I mean, the Chevys had a brand new body style. And a lot of these tracks, the Fords have struggled at. And the tracks that they should have done well at, they've beat themselves. I mean, Penske has struggled all across the board. RFK is probably the fastest Ford team out there. But look at Ford all the way up and down. Other than Penske and RFK, front row has struggled, to say the least, other than occasionally Zane Smith has a good race. The Toyotas did not have a body change. They were ready to go. Joe Gibbs Racing has always been fast. Well, guess where 2311's gotten all their information? I'll say this: NASCAR knows how to use the caution flag. Yes. They've been much better about the strange caution flags, the mystery debris cautions that used to happen a lot. That even being at the track, be like, they threw a caution for what? Where? Oh, there was a piece of debris in turn 3. I'm like, I'm sitting in turn 3. There's no debris. So yeah, that used to be the case, especially when the races got boring. Now that they have the stage breaks, they've kind of stopped doing that. Now they just happen to miss cars altogether that have wrecked. That one always fascinates me. Or there's oil in the track, but yeah, whatever. I mean, a full-on conspiracy theory about Hamlin winning the championship. I mean, he's also been right there at the championship cut line almost every year for the last 8 years. I mean, it's probably due time. And I don't think it had to do anything in a lawsuit. So, but yeah, they've had mysterious caution flags, but the Toyotas didn't change anything this year. 2311 had okay speed last year, but they were mired with lawsuits, and they weren't even eligible for points for half of the season. There was all sorts of crazy stuff that was going on. Rich says, so your driver must be in a... Dude, look at my shirt. Go watch any of my videos for the last 5 years. I'm a diehard Kyle Larson fan. I'm telling you the way it is. So your driver must be in a Toyota. It's all good. Don't give up that bridge. Sure. Okay. All right. You can have whatever beliefs you want. I'm just telling you, I've been following NASCAR for 30 plus years. I've been to over 100 races at this point. I've been to 70 Martinsville races. I'm just telling you the way it is. It's not fixed. Now, I will agree with the errant cautions every once in a while, but that's not been the case for most of this year. There were a couple last year that I was like, that was a little strange. It's not fixed though. So exactly so how did they all of a sudden get... Because everybody else has a lack of speed. It's not that the Toyotas necessarily have the speed. Everybody else has lack of speed. The Hendrick cars have been god-awful slow all year long. They have a brand new body style. They are finally... This is the first practice that I've actually said, hey, look, they finally have speed. They've struggled all year long. I mean, did Tyler Reddick luck into Daytona? Yeah, a little bit. Did he luck into Atlanta? Yeah, his front fender was pretty much torn off. He's always been good at road courses, and he's won at COTA before. So the first 3 races, one of them was... I mean, Daytona's always a little lucky. I mean, I could sit here and show you practice speeds, data telemetry, and everything else, and I can show you why the Toyotas are faster. The Chevys are going to come on strong at the end of this year, hands down. And Penske will figure out a way to gain some speed. I think Joey Logano's too far in a hole. I have seen behind the scenes of what Front Row Motorsports has at Ford, and they don't have near the engineering, the data collection that is needed to make their cars faster. Zane Smith is just a hell of a driver. So it's not a fact of Toyota has that much more speed than everybody else. It's everybody else has a lack of speed. Toyota's the only team that didn't make any major changes to their cars over the offseason. And 2311 doesn't have a lawsuit that they're fighting, and they didn't lose all their points in the middle of a season. I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing was fast all last year. I don't know what to tell you, but my guy's Kyle Larson. Hands down, has been the entire time. You can ask Family Man. He's been watching these videos for a long time. I've been chatting with him forever. You can ask Daniel. The Toyotas just have speed. The window's starting to narrow, though. So it's going to be closer than we think. But I appreciate you tuning in. I love the debate, but I have to call BS on conspiracy theories. There's too many variables that go into a race. There's too many dumbasses. Like, I mean, don't even get me started about some of them. I don't want to call drivers out because I've met a lot of them. Don't want to do that. So either way, back to the calculator here. I don't like Alex Bowman's speed. I think they missed a setup. Now, with the other 3 Hendrick cars showing speed, can they make adjustments? Yeah, as long as they can make the right adjustments, which I'm sure they can. But I don't like his average finishing spot here or there. So I'm going to leave Alex Bowman down here. Like I said, I'm going to run in a few wild card lineups, but he won't be in my core or subcore. So we'll leave him there, lock him in. Zane Smith, everybody's favorite driver in the chat. Everybody loves to take some Zane Smith. And Zane Smith's kind of sitting in that no man's land again. It's like, oh, not a whole lot of place differential here. Not a chance to really dominate or lead a bunch of laps. But Zane always figures out a way. Well, I mean, I think, who do I think is going to win the championship? I think Toyota's going to win the championship. Because they have speed. And because of the new points system. I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be tough for, I think, Hamlin can get close to Reddick, but Reddick's just been consistent. And at this point, all he needs to do is stay consistent. And he's going to end up with a fairly large lead to start. Is it Hamlin that wins the championship? Is it Reddick that wins the championship? I don't know. I mean, maybe the Chevys come on strong enough and Chase Elliott takes it from him. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can just tell you what the points are telling me. You can disagree all you want. You can think it's a conspiracy all you want. That's fine. I've just been watching the sport too long. So, Larson fan my ass. I'm a Larson fan, and I think he wins, and he don't drive for Toyota. You don't think he's going to win? I think he potentially wins tomorrow. Larson, you're a funny guy. But I appreciate the conspiracy theory. Thanks for joining into the chat. Back to Zane Smith, the chat's favorite driver. Starting in 16th. 27th and 32nd in practice. 5 tracks we're comparing to, 3 top 10s, 13.3 average running position. He finished 7th at this race last year. It's the only time he's run at Michigan. Practices were just at about average. Other than he's the chat's favorite driver, I don't really love where Zane Smith is sitting. Don't forget, we old timers go to bed. I mean, I'll be 55 tomorrow, so I'm probably as old as most of the old timers in the chat right now. So, and I stay up most nights until 12:31, 1:30, building all this out. So if you guys don't like the chat, don't like the video, guess what? You don't have to watch it. It's not like I do this for money. I'm not monetized. I don't have any more than about 210 subscribers at this point. It's not like I do this for good health. I do it because I like to do it. And you can pick this up whenever you want to come back and watch it. But yes, I'm an old timer too. And I'll finish this up. These videos typically take 2 hours. You can go back and look at the last 40 videos. They're 2 hours plus. This is a long form breakdown. Andrew says, not a big hockey fan, but the finals have been good. Yeah, I mean, I hate the NBA, but the NBA finals last night was phenomenal. Sports is sports. I enjoy all of it. And yes, I will finish up very quickly for you, Bird. I'm sorry that I spouted off there a second. But yeah, I'll be 55 tomorrow. So yeah, I'm an old timer. Right there with you. I don't know how old you are. All right. Zane Smith, for the chat, we'll leave him at 13. I don't think he's going to finish there. I think they don't have the speed at front row to finish up there, and Zane's luck's going to run out tomorrow. We'll give him the 2-1. 13th gives him the 35.2. I don't know, Bailey, man, you still out there? Do you think your boy Zane's going to finish better than 13th? Do you think he's going to finish top 10? I mean, even so, if he gets to 5th, he'll make the threshold. I think it's more of a We'll lock him in at 13th and go on from there. Michael McDowell, next in line here. 6,600 starting in 20th. His practice speeds were 17th and 8th. At the 5 tracks we're comparing to 2 top 20s, no top 10s. He finished 30th in this race last year at Michigan. Yeah, Michigan's just not his style track. 25.5 average finish starting in 20th. I think that's probably at best where he's going to end up finishing. He's better than average for most of practice. So maybe he finishes in 20th. We'll leave him 20 and 20. How's that? We'll give him the 1-and-1 treatment like we do for everybody, and we'll lock him in at 23.8. But I think it probably is going to be worse than 20th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 6,500, starting in 23rd. I mean, Ricky quietly has been having another phenomenal year. I mean, of all the Chevys, he's actually been one of the better Chevys this year. And that's for a single car team. Hey, maybe there's a conspiracy theory there. Maybe Hayek's really going to win it all. Starting 23rd, his practice speeds were 18th and 26th. 2 top 5s over the last 5 races we're comparing to. That's not great. Finished 20th here at Michigan last year. Pretty much averaging a 20.4, starting 23rd. I mean, I think all the indications are you're going to finish pretty much close to where you started. Looking at the chart, he came out a little bit fast and then kind of fell off a little bit. Yeah, I think Ricky's probably about there. I think it's 23 and 22. We'll give him a 1-and-1 just for the. We give that to most everybody. We'll lock that in at 22.8, and we'll move on. Austin Dillon, 6,300, starting in 21st. 24th in single lap, 29th and 10 lap consecutive average. Once again, out of the 5 races we're comparing to, 4 top 20s, no top 10s. Finished 19th in this race last year. Out of 20 total starts, 16.7. I mean, we're kind of getting in the same realm of this is about where you're going to. You know, these are the guys that I'll put in a handful of lineups with them, and they kind of mix and match because they're less expensive. But out of all these guys, I don't love any of them for a core play at this point. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably kind of finish where you start. There's nothing there in practice that makes me think this is going to be anything different. And RCR's still kind of going through some issues. I mean, they lost Kyle, and so I mean, maybe we'll give him a 19th, lock him in there. All right, Connor Zilic, 6,200, starting in 34th. His practice speeds were actually really good, 12th and 13th. Now, he was in the first group, so it was a little bit better. We don't really have much of information for Michigan because he's never raced there in the Cup car. And I think he finished second in the O'Reilly Xfinity race last year. So starting in 34th, I mean, his practice speeds, like I said, were better than average. Starting 34th. Question is, does Connor Zilic finally find a decent piece of good luck somewhere? I don't know. Flip a coin. Maybe, maybe not. We'll put him in 22nd. We'll give him the 1-and-1 treatment. 33.8. We'll lock him in there and move on. AJ Allmendinger, $6,000, starting in 25th. His practice speeds were 32nd and 34th. 5-track comparison, 2 top 20s, no top 10s. 23.2 average running position. He finished 17th in this race last year. He actually finishes decent at Michigan. That's about it, though. Decent. No top 10s, 13 top 20s. Starting in 25th. Practice speeds were right on average. Fired off a little slow, but pretty much met the average line throughout. Kind of an 18th place finish is what it's kind of looking at for him. So we'll move him down to 18th. We'll give him the 1-and-1 and lock it in at 33.8. Look at that, same total as Connor Zilic. So coin toss between Connor Zilic and AJ Allmendinger. AJ's going to finish a little better, though. Josh Berry, who decided to spin out in qualifying, but his speeds were much better than that anyways. 34th in single lap, 22 in 10 lap consecutive average. And for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, which is only, it's all 3 Michigan races, those 26.6. He did have a 12th place finish last year here at Michigan. The one time he finished in the top 20. So 19th place average finish. I mean, he's got a ton of room to move up, but God, his practice speeds were god awful. He never hit average. He was definitely struggling all of practice and then spun it out in qualifying. 37th to 27th. I mean, that honestly might be kind of where it's at. Maybe 25th. I don't think he's going to lead a lap. I think that's where we finally move that away from that. One fast lap. Yeah, we'll lock it at 30.5 and move on. I mean, he's going to get ownership because he's got the last starting spot. I don't like the play much at all, and don't really like the Fords right now. They're just not very fast. But John Hunter Nemechek in 17th in the Toyota. Maybe John Hunter Nemechek will get his first win because he's in the Toyota. Starting in 17th, practice speeds 30th and 18th. Out of the 5 tracks we're comparing to, one top 20, 26.0, finished 34th in this race last year, 28.5 average finish, and his practice speeds are right on the average line. Not a whole lot to write home here. I think 25th is probably where it's at for him. So I'm going to lock him in at a 30. That's Josh. 17th to, I think it's about 23rd. Might be a decent finish for him. Maybe one fast lap. Yeah, I'm going to lock him in at a 21.5. I think he just out-qualified himself. I just don't think he improves from there. I think he falls back. Austin Hill, 28th. I mean, they made an interesting point during the prime broadcast of practice and qualifying at some point. They were like, oh, yeah, Austin Hill, all he had to do was think about driving Cup car all weekend. He didn't have to drive the O'Reilly car. And I'm like, usually driving the O'Reilly car will help you from Saturday to Sunday. I mean, maybe not for Austin Hill. I don't know. He was 31st in single lap, 19th in 10 lap. I mean, at least he's got 33 laps of practice. He has a ton of practice laps. I mean, he's got some experience here. Starting in 28th. I mean, he might be able to get himself a top 20 this week. You know, there's no real reason to base it other than gut feeling at this point. You know, maybe he gets himself a 19th. We give him one fast lap. But I could also see him finishing 34th. So you can go build the calculator yourself and put in whatever. I'll give him a 20th place finish with one fast lap. We'll lock him in at 31.5, and we'll move on to Riley Herbst. 5,500, starting in 12th. I don't have a clue. This is way better than anything he has done on a Toyota. Or for 2311. I mean, maybe he's starting to figure it out. I mean, maybe as some people think it's a conspiracy and that he's going to actually win a race. I think he is not great. I think maybe finishes better than what he's been averaging, which is 25th. But I don't think it's any more better than like 21st. I mean, look at his practice speeds. They fall off like a cliff. He started off strong for the first 10 laps, but then falls off. I'll give him a 23rd place finish, 24th. I'll leave it there at 24th. And we'll move on to Todd Gilliland. Front Row Motorsports, once again, lack of engineering, lack of extra people, lack of strategy, lack of speed, lack of all sorts of things. 35th in practice, 36th in single lap. I mean, they unloaded this car and it was junk. He did 14 laps, but he literally had to come in because the car was undrivable. Like, he made 3 pit stops in practice. He never got above a 2 or 3 lap run before he was like, I can't drive it. You've got to fix this. I mean, he was super way off the pace. And typically, once you unload and you're that slow, you stay that slow. I think 28th is being absolutely generous. With a car that is mishandling. So even at that, I wouldn't take him with a 21.5. Noah Gregson next in line here at 5,200, starting in 22nd. I mean, at least Noah's practice speeds. I don't know what they did to Todd Gillen's car, but Noah's car and Zane's car all come out of the same shop. And it would not surprise me if we wake up tomorrow and they found a broken something in or under that car. Now he'll have to go to the back, but that's 2 spots further back than when he's starting. Not a big deal. But it would not surprise me if they found something wrong with that car and had to make an adjustment. He's just that far off from everyone else. And it just doesn't happen when the rest of the team shows up and at least qualifies and practices in the 20s and you're almost dead last. I mean, if Josh Berry had not spun on his qualifying lap, Todd Gillen would be starting 36, 1 spot in front of JJ Yaley. So that's really bad. Noah starting 22nd. His practice speeds were right at 20th. 20.3 average running position. Average finish of 28.5 over 2 races. The sample size is not huge. Finished 27th here last year. I mean, nothing to write home here. I think he actually outqualified himself a little bit. I mean, I think that a 20th is where the AI kind of put him, and I think that's being probably generous. I think it's more of, I'm still not going to take him at 20th at 25.5. So we'll lock that in there. Ty Dillon next in line here. We're kind of getting towards the end here. If you got any thoughts, questions, or concerns, make sure you hit me up in the chat. Ty Dillon started 24th. I mean, Ty Dillon's quietly been having one of his better years, hit or miss. I mean, starting 24th, his practice speeds were 29th and 33rd. Average for the 5 tracks we're comparing to was 23.3. Finished 24th in this race last year. The average finish here at Michigan is 21. Started off really slow in practice. He finally got at least some speed by lap 10. But that's not great either. And starting probably, I think 23rd's being generous. I'm going to finish him where he starts. And I'm not going to let him have a lap lead. He'll have a fast lap, 19.5. Lock it in and move on to somebody else who I think may have outqualified themselves, but he's been doing this the last couple of years. Starting in 15th, he was 22nd in single lap, 28th and 10 lap consecutive average. Finished 35th in this race last year. He has 5 total starts, no top 20s, starting in 15th. I mean, they've had decent speed in the last couple races. I think at best he's going to finish where he starts. But I think it's probably more realistic that he finishes 27th. So I'll bump him up a little bit, 24th, but it's not going to matter. I'm not going to take him with a thought process of getting 18.5, even at $4,900. Cody Ware starting in 33rd. He did 25 laps of practice. I will always call out Cody Ware when he actually goes out and participates in practice and actually does more than 5 laps. So good for him. He was 35th in single lap. He was the slowest guy in 10 lap consecutive average, which was 23rd. And he averages 27.8. Practice speeds were never close to average. I'd have just absolutely no interest in Cody Ware or JJ Yaley. I think at best he's going to finish 32nd and probably 4 laps down, still running. So 12.4. JJ Yaley, I didn't even fix his card because I really could care less. Starting 36, he was 37th in practice. 32nd place average finish. He's never finished in the top 20 here out of 15 total starts his entire career. And I mean, he did have almost better speed than Todd Gillen. That tells you how bad Todd Gillen was this weekend in practice. Yeah, he's going to probably finish 36th or 37th. Lock that in. And that's all of our drivers and comparisons. So once you have this all finished up on your sheet, what you end up doing is click rankings, and you can kind of scroll down and see who you've got, who you don't have. And then you can click download CSV file. So you want to make sure you click the download CSV file before you leave. It then gives you your nice little CSV file and the points that you think they're going to get. And then you go and build your lineup based on that. So that's my free gift to everyone for now. If anybody's got any thoughts, wants, or concerns before we sign off here, it's 11 o'clock. And I've still got to build lineups because I've got another baseball tournament to go to tomorrow. I think this one actually has cell phone service. So hopefully I'll be able to finish setting lineups if I need to. But other than that, if you have not liked or subscribed, please do. If you think this is all a conspiracy and you don't like my opinions, guess what? It's free. You don't have to watch. Carolina down 4-0 and tied the game tonight. I'm watching college baseball right now, so and Alabama's kicking St. John's butt. So, all right, I'll go turn the hockey game on. And they just tied it. Wow. I'll see you next week, Freeport. And yeah, I'm right there with you, being an old man. So, like I said, I'm getting a year older tomorrow. So, we'll see everyone next week. I appreciate everyone tuning in, but I appreciate everyone joining in and hitting the like and subscribe button. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or questions, join the Discord. I'll be in there. There's a couple other guys that are pretty active in the Discord. It's not the super most active, but we'll get there. But I appreciate everyone tuning in. Go use and abuse the calculator as much as you want. It's free, at least for now. Maybe in a year or so I'll change it because I'll need to make some money on all the money that I'm spending on tokens with the AI. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next Saturday. We head to, is it Chicagoland next week? I know it's San Diego's in 2 weeks. I really should look at what's coming up. Let's see. Jayski says we head to schedule. Pocono. Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah, Pocono. Yeah, for all the conspiracy theories out there, Denny Hamlin's really good at Pocono too. So, all right, you guys have a great night. We'll see you next Saturday for the breakdown. We'll talk to you then. Thanks. Bye.
coming to life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You are fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drug your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.